So we know from preliminary work that's been done that about 2.4 trillion US dollars is going to be needed to deal with the impacts of climate change. And it's going to be impossible to hit that figure without private financing. So I think the new climate finance goal that we expect to be agreed at COP29 is really, really important because we need a credible roadmap for how we will raise and mobilize that level of funding. Now, one of the other things that we need to consider alongside this is the level of debt distress that many vulnerable countries are facing. So it's really important that while we're looking to mobilize these funds, we're also thinking through how can poorer or vulnerable countries manage unsustainable levels of debt, because if they're having to service that debt, that's money taken away from the urgent climate action that's needed. So I think it's a really important year for setting that goal. The previous goal, which was 100 billion, was not met on time. By the time it was met, the costs of action had exceeded what had been envisaged. So it's really important that we have an accurate figure of what's needed, a clear roadmap for how we will get there, and urgency in mobilizing those funds. Well, the first thing to note is that subnational governments are a really important part of attaining NDCs. And the reason for that is because they have the most significant mitigation potential of any non-state actor. They're local to communities. They're better placed to understand what the specific needs are within their localities, so they can make sure that climate action is really targeted to what's needed in that particular geography. The other reason that they're important is because often they have extensive powers. They are able to put in place regulations. They are able to raise their own financing. So it's really important that they're empowered to be able to deliver on the climate action that's needed. But they also have to be part of setting those targets. So I think it's really critical that subnational governments are part of the NDC process because they're crucial to implementation. They're critical to making sure that plans are targeted and specific to what's needed, and they can really drive impact for people and communities. But in order to do that, they have to be part of the conversation. And at the moment, they often don't receive international climate finance inflows. These mechanisms are not really open to the subnational level. So it's critical that national and subnational governments work closely together to put in place plans that are realistic to what's needed, and then are empowered to drive that forward. We are delighted to welcome Colorado to the Under 2 Coalition. They're one of the leaders on tackling methane emissions. So we feel that many of our states who are part of the coalition will learn a lot from their experiences. And we can't wait to work with them to amplify their expertise and what they've managed to achieve on the world stage.